Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Munib Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the top stories first. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi says India is no more a secular country as minorities feel unsafe there. Addressing a press conference in Bulletin, Qureshi said this is a short message for the new U.S. administration. He pointed out that India is a new face of Hindutva, a new practical demonstration of the thinking of the RSS. France and the United States slammed Russia over the arrest of more than 3,000 protesters during rallies in support of jailed Alexei Navalny. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian termed the crackdown illegal and called for sanctions on Russia, while the United States State Department asked Moscow to immediately release all the detainees. A U.S. aircraft carrier group led by the USS Theodore Roosevelt has entered the South China Sea for the naval drills. The U.S. military says the exercise is to promote freedom of the seas. This comes after China passed a law on Friday allowing its Coast Guard to fire on foreign vessels. The Afghan government says its forces have killed 38 Taliban fighters during a preemptive operation in southern Kandahar province. The Defense Ministry says 5 Taliban hideouts and a large amount of their weapons were also destroyed. The Taliban claim to have destroyed a vehicle of the government forces in the province, killing the soldiers on board. Meanwhile, one person has been killed and another wounded in an IED blast in the capital city of Kabul. The United States has registered more than 3,300 coronavirus fatalities and over 171,000 cases overnight, with the infections tally nearing 25 million. Pakistan has reported 1,600 new infections and 48 fatalities in the past 24 hours, taking the toll to 11,295. Globally, the virus has claimed 2.1 million lives and infected nearly 99 million people so far. And in cricket, England trailed Sri Lanka by 42 runs in the first innings of the second test in Gale. The Wizards ended the third day at 339 for 9 after bowling Sri Lanka out for 381 in the first innings. Skipper Joe Root top scored for England with 186 runs, while Josh Buttler added 55. These are the top stories. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. We start from Pakistan, where the Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said India is no more a secular country as minorities feel unsafe there. At a press conference in Multan, he said the Indian government is following the fascist Hindutva ideology of the RSS. He urged the United States President Joe Biden to consider new ground realities before developing relations with India. He also said Pakistan has made a big shift from a geostrategic position to a geo-economic position. The foreign minister said Islamabad hopes to engage with the new U.S. administration based on a new approach. Qureshi has earlier penned a letter to the incoming Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, updating him about Pakistan's current policies. He expressed hope that the two sides will hold further dialogue in the coming days. Meanwhile, Pakistan warns the supply of advanced weapons India is bolstering India's offensive doctrines into war-fighting strategies. Pakistan's United Nations envoy Khalil Hashmi says New Delhi's policies threaten peace in South Asia and beyond. Speaking at a conference on disarmament, Hashmi said India is driven by hyper-nationalism. He said New Delhi is pursuing policies of hegemony and domination over its neighbours. The ambassador slammed India for violating international law by locking down 8 million people in occupied Jammu and Kashmir. He said India has shut all means of communications in the occupied valley. The envoy added New Delhi has rejected calls for investigations into its human rights abuses in the territory. Now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the construction of warships is another milestone in Turkey-Pakistan defense ties. He said this at the groundbreaking ceremony of the construction of a third Pakistani Navy ship in Istanbul. President Erdogan said Pakistan is a brotherly country with whom Turkey enjoys excellent relations. He said both Islamabad and Ankara have difficult geographies and face similar challenges. Erdogan said Turkey will continue to support friendly and allied countries in the field of defense. Pakistan's ambassador to Turkey, Mohammad Cyrus Sajjad Ghazi, was also present at the ceremony. Under the transfer of technology contract, 2 corvettes will be built in Turkey and the other 2 in Pakistan. Meanwhile, in India, more than 50 Congress workers and 5 policemen were injured in a clash during a protest march in Madhya Pradesh. The march was part of a 2-week program to show support for the farmers camping at Delhi borders. Police say the 110 party workers detained during the protests have been released. The opposition party says protesters were peacefully marching towards Governor House when police resorted to batons. Meanwhile, the unions have planned to mount pressure on the centre through a tractor parade on Republic Day on the 26th of January. A farm leader says around 300,000 tractors will participate in the rally. In the dead of winter, farmers have been protesting against the controversial new laws across the country since November. Now, the Afghan government says its forces have killed 38 Taliban fighters during a preemptive operation in southern Kandahar province. The Defense Ministry says 5 Taliban hideouts and a large amount of their weapons were also destroyed. The ministry said 17 improvised explosive devices which placed on public roads were also defused. The Taliban claimed to have destroyed a vehicle of the government forces in the province, killing the soldiers on board. Meanwhile, 1 person has been killed and another wounded in an IED blast in the capital city of Kabul. The deceased was the employee of Afghanistan's central bank. The Afghan government has welcomed the Biden administration's decision to review a U.S. deal with the Taliban. Washington struck the deal in Qatar last year to begin withdrawing its troops in return for security guarantees. Afghanistan's acting Minister of State for Peace said the outcome of the review should be a truce to end attacks in the country. In a video statement, Abdullah Khanjani said the Afghan people want an immediate stop to violence. Earlier, United States National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the review would assess the Taliban's ties with terrorist groups. A White House statement quoted Jake Sullivan as saying that Washington will support the Afghan peace process with a robust and regional diplomatic effort. Now moving to China, where 11 workers have been rescued from a gold mine in the northern Shandong province. 22 workers were trapped in the Hushan mine on the 10th of January following an explosion. The state media says the first person to be rescued was extremely weak and rushed to the hospital. Later, another 10 miners were brought out from a different section of the mine, including 1 who was injured. 1 miner has died and 11 others have not been in contact with rescue teams. Teams are still working to save the others, with officials saying earlier the operation could take weeks. Meanwhile, a U.S. aircraft carrier group led by the USS Theodore Roosevelt has entered the South China Sea for the naval drills. Earlier, China passed a law allowing its coast guards to fire on foreign vessels upon illegal infringement. In a statement, the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command said the routine exercise is to promote freedom of the seas. It said the carrier strike group will build partnerships that foster maritime security. This comes as Taiwan accused China of a large incursion of bombers and fighter jets into its air defense identification zone. Now, Beijing has repeatedly complained about U.S. Navy ships getting close to Chinese islands in the South China Sea. France and the United States slammed Russia over the arrest of around 3,000 protesters during rallies in support of jailed Alexei Navalny on Sunday. In an interview, French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian termed the crackdown illegal and called for sanctions on Russia. While the U.S. State Department asked Moscow to immediately release all the detainees. Navalny was arrested last Sunday after returning to Moscow for the first time since being poisoned last year. At least 40,000 people joined a protest in March in Moscow alone to call for his release. Rallies were also held in 60 other cities and towns. Now, the newly appointed U.S. Defense Secretary has reaffirmed his country's commitment to the alliance with the UK, Japan and South Korea. The Pentagon says Secretary Lloyd Austin held a telephonic conversation with his British, Japanese and South Korean counterparts. A Pentagon spokesperson said Austin discussed views on confronting strategic issues of mutual interest with British Defense Secretary Ben Wallace. The spokesperson added Austin underscored U.S. commitment to defend South Korea during his call with Defense Minister Soo Puk. Meanwhile, during his interaction with Japanese Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi, Austin emphasized on the importance of maintaining peace and security in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, in the United States, a Republican senator has warned the impeachment trial of Donald Trump could set a precedent of former presidents' trials. The House of Representatives impeached Trump for incitement of insurrection over Capitol Hill riots. In a tweet directed at Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, John Cornyn urged to do what is best for the country. Several Republican senators opposed the impeachment as Trump has left the office. Earlier, Schumer said Trump's trial in the Senate will begin next week. The lower house will deliver the impeachment article to the Senate on Monday. And Trump is the first president in U.S. history to be impeached twice and the first to face trial after leaving office. Now moving to Venezuela, where President Nicolas Maduro says he is willing to turn the page with the United States under President Joe Biden. Talking to supporters, Maduro called for a new path after years of tensions with Donald Trump's White House. The leftist leader called for respect, dialogue, communication and understanding in future ties. After Biden won the U.S. presidential election in November, Maduro congratulated the longtime politician. Caracas and Washington fully broke diplomatic ties on January 23, 2019, after years of a frosty relationship. And the U.S. government recognized opposition leader Juan Guaido as Venezuela's interim president. Also, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro says the fire at one of the country's main oil pipeline was a result of a terrorist attack. Maduro said the attack sought to compromise Venezuela's fuel supplies, but he did not provide any further details of the incident. The country's refinery sector has been operating at a third of its capacity for months due to alleged mechanical problems.
Today, we suffered a terrorist attack in a pipeline in the west, which set off a large fire that has now been brought under control by the State Petroleum Company. The objective was to affect the fuel supply in the country.
Now, Iran's president is going to sue his country's state broadcaster after he was accused of using drugs on national television. A cleric on television claimed the cabinet members cannot often reach the president as he is at home smoking opium. President Hassan Rouhani's Office of Legal Affairs said he will pursue defamation charges against the claimant. The spokesperson said what was broadcast was just shameless insult, slander and foul language against the president. The Islamic Republic of Iran Broadcasting Corporation is controlled by the country's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and Bozorgi Institute. Now, the United States has registered more than 3,300 coronavirus fatalities and over 171,000 cases overnight, while globally the virus has claimed 2.1 million lives and infected nearly 99 million people so far. More about coronavirus in this report.
As the world faces the challenges of mass vaccination and shortages, the fear of the mutant variants of COVID-19 is causing a fresh panic. UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson has extended local councils' lockdown powers till July, after revealing that the new variant is not just more contagious, but more deadly as well. Britain has also imposed a 10-day essential quarantine from all arriving from the high-risk countries. Sweden too has banned all entries from Norway after the new strain was detected in the Norwegian capital. Over in the U.S., the number of COVID-19 cases is nearing 25 million. In a message, President Joe Biden assured all mayors of the country he is willing to work with them, shoulder to shoulder.
Now, as president, I'm going to work with you again in this moment of crisis to contain the pandemic and to build our economy back and build it back better. So as you meet with your teams during the winter meeting, be honest about what you need and how we can help work with you and get it done.
Italy and France are among the worst hit in European Union once again. However, a recent assessment has shown that the load on intensive care units in France has reduced. Over in New Zealand, health officials are investigating the country's first community coronavirus case in months.
We are working on the assumption that this is a positive case and that it is a more transmissible variant, either one of the one identified first in South Africa or the UK, or potentially Brazil, or another more transmissible variant. Given where we are in this global pandemic, the variants that are becoming more common are the ones that are more transmissible.
Meanwhile, India's huge coronavirus vaccination drive is lagging behind schedule. Government data shows 1/3 of the recipients are not showing up for appointments because of safety fears, technical glitches, and a belief that the pandemic is ending. Mainland China, meanwhile, reported 8 new COVID-19 cases overnight, down from 107 cases a day earlier.
Meanwhile, Pakistan has welcomed COVAX announcement of acquiring 150 million doses of COVID-19 vaccine in the first quarter. COVAX Alliance has pledged free vaccine for 20% of Pakistan's population. A spokesperson for the Ministry of National Health Services said it's a positive development. And in his interview, the spokesperson expressed the hope Pakistan would get the vaccine in the current quarter. Meanwhile, the country has recorded 48 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, raising the toll to 11,295. The health officials reported 1,594 new infections over the past 24 hours. The number of cases have risen to over 532,000, while more than 486,000 have recovered. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, at least 9 people died after tropical cyclone ELOISE hit Mozambique in Africa's southeast. It brought rain and powerful winds of around 130 kilometers per hour. Authorities said the victims died in the worst-hit port city of Beira. Most of them were killed by falling trees. Cars were submerged in waters, walls of some low-lying buildings collapsed, and swathes of land were flooded in the city. Mozambique President Filipe Nyusi is set to travel to the area. ELOISE has since lost its strength and been downgraded to a tropical storm now. A French non-governmental organization says it has rescued over 370 migrants off the coast of Libya. The SOS Mediterranean said its Ocean Viking aid vessel rescued the migrants in 2 days. It said a majority of the people aboard an inflatable rubber dinghy were found intoxicated by oil fumes. The NGO said the rescued include 21 babies, 35 children and 131 unaccompanied minors. It said all survivors urgently need to disembark in a place of safety, but Libyan authorities have not answered to their request. The NGO mentioned the migrant came from Guinea, Sudan and Sierra Leone. Now, renowned Pakistani mountaineer Muhammad Ali SADPARAS says he will attempt to ascend K2 without oxygen. This comes days after the world's second highest peak was scaled for the first time in winter by a Nepalese team. In a tweet, SADPARAS said the team of climbers will also include his son Sajid SADPARA and Icelander John Snorri. He said it was a very ambitious plan and conditions were not easy, but the climbers were ready for it. He has asked the nation to pray for their success. Saudi Arabia has opened its first drive-in movie theater in the capital city of Riyadh. This is a unique entertainment experience for the moviegoers amid strict measures against the pandemic. Let's have a look.
A homegrown chain, MUVI Cinemas, has opened up a pop-up movie theater in Riyadh. The facility has started featuring 3 showings per day. The movie theater can accommodate up to 150 cars while maintaining social distancing. Some moviegoers have described the experience as exceptional and enjoyable, especially in Riyadh winter.
بصراحة تجربة سينما السيارات تجربة رائعة.
Honestly, the experience of drive-in cinema is a great experience. I never expected that it will be like what I am seeing.
Who would have believed that this will be in Saudi Arabia? And yet, it's happening, thanks God.
Audience members are required to wear face masks. Viewers can buy food and drinks, but they have to take them in cars. The organizers say they have applied all the precautionary measures to ensure a safe environment for the employees and customers.
The most important thing is that we follow the precautionary measures to avoid COVID-19, and this idea is for citizens and residents to watch the movie and stay safe from COVID-19 at the same time.
Drive-in cinemas popped up in other parts of the Middle East since the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, with similar venues opening up in Dubai and Beirut early last year. Saudi Arabia has recorded over 365,000 coronavirus cases and more than 6,300 deaths so far.
Now, a rare portrait made by Renaissance artist Sandro Botticelli is set to join the $100 million art club at an auction in New York. The 15th century art piece, named Young Man Holding a Medallion, is one of only around a dozen of his portraits known to survive today.
Young Man Holding a Roundel was acquired by its present unidentified owner at an auction in 1982 in the United Kingdom. It shows an unknown young man dressed in a simple tunic with the blue sky behind him and holding a roundel or medallion. Sotheby's said the painting is one of the best unparalleled masterpieces by the Renaissance artist.
This transcends other paintings by Botticelli in studio that we've seen that have been on the market. This is a picture that is on a masterpiece level. And so when we were thinking about what the right sort of level and what sort of price is appropriate, we really looked at not other paintings by Botticelli, because there's simply no other parallels in terms of condition, quality, perfection, let's say, and image.
Other notable works being put up to auction include Rembrandt's Abraham and the Angels. Sotheby's is expecting the piece to get $20 million to $30 million.
The other thing that I like about this picture is just the incredibly strong narrative sense that Rembrandt brings to bear. It's a very, gem-like size, but he uses the full force of composition, of light, dark, drama, brushwork to create this story. And the story itself, as I said, which is an Old Testament one, is a wonderful image and idea.
Also being put to auction is Autumn, a 1616 sculpture by father and son, Pietro Bernini and Gian Lorenzo. Sotheby's estimates the piece will go between $8 million to $12 million. The sales process began on Friday, will continue to the end of the month.
With that, we come to the end of this bulletin. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.